Hi, my name is Kaarle Parikka and I'm the head of marketing here at Falcony. Welcome to our first launch event of 2023 to all of you on the other side of the screen. Our agenda for today consists of 4 segments. In the first segment, our CEO Arttu will unveil the long-awaited audit scheduling add-on. In the second segment, our COO Andy will join me on stage to discuss our new integrations and APIs. In the third segment, my colleague Marianne Lindkvist will join me to discuss the highlights from last year. And in the final segment, Andy and Arttu will discuss what lies ahead in the future. I'd like to remind you that there is the live chat option available during the presentation, so if you have any questions, please raise them. Our colleagues will be in the chat to help you out. Without further ado, welcome Arttu.
Thank you, Kaarle, and welcome from my side as well, the first launch event of this year. We have quite a bit to cover today, so let's jump right in to the first segment, which is the long-awaited, I'd even say, the most requested functionality of Falcony platform, audit scheduling. But before I show you the nuts and bolts of this new feature, let me give a bit of context first by telling you a story. During World War II, the US military tried to determine how much and in which parts they needed to armor their aircraft. By armoring the planes, they faced a problem. Of course, they needed to armor them to some degree, otherwise the enemy fighters would have shot them down easily. But then again, armoring them too much was also a problem. Armoring too much them made the planes heavier, and heavier planes are less maneuverable and use more fuel. So, in a way, too much armor was a problem, but too little armor was a problem. Somewhere in between there was an optimum. And in the look of this optimum, the military decided to give this task to a team led by back then very famous mathematician Abraham Wald and Wald's team. Of course, this was not a task to take lightly. Human lives were on the line, of course, and the enemy, no other than Nazi Germany. Luckily, the military officers had data for the math wizards to use. When the planes came back from missions over Europe, they were covered in bullet holes. But the damage of these bullet holes was not uniformly spread across the aircraft. Majority of the bullet holes were in the wings or in the body of the planes. So here's the question. You have this data. You have planes looking like this. Where do you put more armor? And more specifically, why? What the military officers had originally considered was to concentrate more of the armor in the places where there were more bullet holes, where there were more shots. And that was the question they specifically asked from the team led by Wald. But it wasn't the answer they got. The armor, said Wald, does not go to the places where there are more bullet holes. The armor goes where the bullet holes are not, on the engines. The military officers thought Wald was crazy. Why on earth would you put more armor there? There are no bullet holes. But Wald had realized something that nobody else did. There were bullet holes, but those planes that had bullet holes on the engine were not coming back. The missing bullet holes were on the missing airplanes. The missing bullet holes were the missing data. And this brings us all the way back to audits. On average, a quarter, so 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% 25% let's stop here for a second. Anybody smelling missing bullet holes? The missing data, with this missing data, the actually conducted audits are at risk of answering the wrong questions. And the worse the audit completion rate, the bigger the problem. So one might ask, why does this happen? Why won't those audits simply get done? We're going to oversimplify a bit and give you 3 reasons why. 1, the employees responsible of those audits, they might be too busy. 2, they might not know how to do those, or the tools they should use are too difficult for them. And 3, they might simply forget to do them. The solution to the first one, so too busy problem, it's mainly an organizational thing. So you shouldn't introduce audits or, for that matter, processes that don't make sense. But when they do make sense, you should do everything you can to incentivize, make it simple enough so that they become part of the normal day-to-day work. Solution to the second one, the too difficult problem, is what we at Falcony have been pushing for a lot. So make it as easy as possible. Enable mobile and offline use. Use same tool for multiple types of audits, even for multiple audits of different use cases. But the third one is the trickiest. If the people responsible of those audits, if they forget to do them, wouldn't it be enough if we simply reminded them more? The answer is a firm no. Why? Because first of all, it's typically the managers responsible of sending the reminders, and it's really, really costly to spend their time for that. At some point, it starts to feel like micromanagement, and as we know, nobody really likes to be reminded all the time, especially nowadays. So just like with instant communication and all the apps that we use in our personal lives, the expectations are much, much higher nowadays. But even if we don't want to be micromanaged, most of us still deep down want to do good work, want to have a voice, and want to be involved. So today we're going to help you slash down the "don't you forget to do it" barrier when it comes to audits by introducing Audit Scheduling add-on. In one sentence, this will help you plan and schedule audits into the future. But of course, there's more to this. So let me explain. Instead of considering only one-off schedules, so let's say do an audit for a specific site on a specific date, or audit all your properties next autumn or within this year. With our add-on, you can also create recurring schedules. So, for example, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or even schedules that recur every year. And the more audits you, your team, or your organization need to carry out, the more it makes sense to have visibility for all of those schedules. And this is not just for your own reasons of staying on top of things, what are your responsibility areas, but also for the bigger picture of resourcing and capacity. I mean, we only have time to do something, not everything. Then again, when the schedule is set live, you have full visibility also for each and every individual audit and where they are going. Whether it's upcoming or ongoing, started or not started, completed or missed. And speaking of missed audits, the add-on will send automated reminders for every single scheduled audit for the auditors themselves. And this is big, as you as a manager or an admin user, you don't need to do it manually anymore. So you save a lot of time there. So what we aim to do is help you and your team never to miss an audit again. But we'd go even as far to say that the time saved from reminding people can be used better elsewhere. So what you could do is spend the time on improving and implementing new processes, new audits. And since we like frameworks so much here at Falcony, I'd like to show how this can help you. So when you improve or implement new processes, new audits, where it leads to is more involvement, more auditors generating more observations and thus data. And with the data, and with better and more complete data, you get better reports, better dashboards. And that's something that we know management teams tend to like. And when boardroom likes something, they tend to ask more of the same, speeding up the flywheel. So, let's conclude. With our audit scheduling add-on, you can make sure all the audits get done. This leads to greater involvement and hence observations and data, arming you to know what's really going on, to make continuous improvements, and ultimately earn the respect that you know you deserve. Audit scheduling add-on is already available today. It's already live. So if you want this enabled, we strongly suggest you to book a meeting with us. I assume my team is gonna add the link soon to the chat. So that concludes my session. I want to thank you from my side and give the podium back to Mr. Kaarle Parikka. Thank you.
Thank you, Arttu. Like I said, this concludes the first section of the event. As a reminder, the Contact Us link will be shared in the chat, so feel free to book a meeting with us and let's discuss the audit scheduling add-on benefits for your organization in more detail. In the next segment, our COO, Anthony Jones, will join me on stage to discuss our new integrations and APIs. Before that, let's have a short break. All right, welcome back and welcome Andy.
Thank you very much. It's almost a biannual tradition to be grilled here on this seat.
Indeed. So next we're going to be talking about the various different integrations and our newly introduced APIs, which are possible in the Falcony platform.
Yeah, that's correct. So we'll start first by looking at the bigger picture, and hopefully this is big enough for everybody, but basically we have enterprise capability on the y-axis and involvement on the x-axis, and what we want to think of when it comes to involvement, that we compare with WhatsApp, a very easily usable way of communicating.
But of course, WhatsApp isn't actually enterprise compatible.
Exactly. So then if we look at typical reporting system, which is on the left here, we basically have a lot of very highly enterprise compatible solutions, but then again, they're not so involving. So they might cover single functions like, say, facility management, and in some cases it might be even tricky to know where to report something, or then you have to report something in multiple different systems.
True. But how does this link to the integrations then?
Well, of course, enterprise capability is a lot about integrations, so all the different systems should kind of speak with each other, so that the data across the systems doesn't have to be managed by people, because there's human error. And also then the data is coherent and uniform across the different platforms.
Makes sense. So here's an overview of integrations. On the left-hand side, how to import data into Falcony, and then on the right-hand side, how to export data out of Falcony. In this segment with Andy, we will be concentrating mostly on the left-hand side, so how to import data from other data sources into the Falcony platform.
Exactly. And basically there's just a lot of different brand logos, so when you get the material you can look at them, but it's not all of these are just examples. But yeah, so APIs is what we're going to focus on. It's fancy word.
A fancy acronym it is.
So for those of you who don't know about APIs or are not familiar with the term, it comes from Application Programming Interface, and it basically just means a set of definitions and rules on how software can communicate and push information into Falcony, how to import data into Falcony.
And we have developed 4 new APIs: the Places API, the Users API, the Data Sources API, and then finally the Open Link API. Each of them created for importing data from different sources into the Falcony platform.
Yeah, and also in different places into Falcony. So some of these are very self-explanatory. Like the Places API is used to import places and keeping them up to date, and the Users API to update and upload users and their user rights.
Exactly. And then the Data Sources API, having a searchable list of items for the observation questions, and then on the other hand the Open Link API to automatically create observations in Falcony from external events.
Exactly. So this is like the high level stuff, but now we'll drill down to more specific use cases and examples on how each of these work.
Exactly. The first one shown here is not a new integration by any means. Actually, by far the most common amongst our customers. So SSO, which is an acronym for Single Sign-On. And when incorporated into the Falcony platform, the SSO means that the end users don't have to manually create passwords into the platform, but instead they can use the existing company credentials to log in, which is easy and convenient.
It is, and also it allows for greater security by allowing 2-factor authentication as well as fully customizable password policies.
Exactly. So that was more of a reminder.
Sure. All right, so then let's go to the actual first one, which is the Places API in Falcony.
Yes, so nowadays we have a standard API for Places, which can be easily plugged into, for example, the customer's ERP system or any other master data system for locations or cost centers. And when this integration is used, the customer admins don't need to manually update the Places inside Falcony, but instead all the information related to these Places will be automatically kept up to date via this integration.
And very similarly, the Users API does the very same for users. So users and their access rights can be updated from a HR system or any other system where the users are managed like primarily.
And this means, for example, that when a new employee gets hired, she gets automatically added to Falcony. Secondly, if and when she gets promoted, she gets additional access rights within the system. And lastly, when she decides to leave the company, her credentials will be automatically removed.
Exactly. So very, very helpful for admin users, I'm sure.
Definitely.
All right, so then we'll go into like 3 examples of the data sources API. So as some of you already know, it's possible to have a drop-down, so select question type or multi-select, but basically a drop-down within the Falcony forms. And this drop-down could have even millions of items in it. And keeping them up to date is fairly hard if you have hundreds or millions of different possibilities to search from the drop-down. So basically what this then enables this API is to update that list from an external data source.
And let's give a few more examples.
Yeah, so we've got a few examples. So one of them could be that in a customer claim situation, you are reporting a claim and you then select the actual customer from a list of customers that is updated via a CRM system or any other type of system, like ERP system, that you have the list of customers in.
And close to customers, there's often also orders and products.
Yeah, so exactly. So if you have defects in products or customer orders, then these could be separate fields, also updated from an ERP system automatically.
And this same applies well for loss prevention incidents such as thefts and delivery problems.
Exactly. Cases where there's you have to select from even millions of different possibilities. So, any other examples?
Sure. In the third example, one can report incidents, claims, or other observations related to suppliers and choose a supplier from a list that is automatically updated from customer CRM or supplier management system.
Exactly. So, like I said, all of these three examples work in exactly the same way, with only the difference that the data source used is different in these different ones.
Yes, the point is basically that you can bring pretty much any other data the same way to Falcony.
Exactly. So it could be projects, chemicals, deliveries, patients, and so on.
That's right.
Name it. All right. So then for the last one.
Okay, the last integration we have here, we're going to talk about the OpenLink API. This integration allows you to create observations into Falcony from external events.
Exactly. So the external events could be like a sensor related, or it could be like an NPS survey score that is lower than a certain threshold, and basically this triggers then an open ticket into Falcony.
Yes, and besides these examples, pretty much any kind of event that is logged or generated in another software or hardware.
Exactly. So, of course, the benefit of this is to then enable you to use the simple like follow-up procedures and analytics that Falcony already has, and just have like an external input regarding creating the different tickets or tasks.
That's a nice way to link it to the involvement topic.
Yeah, that definitely is. So if we then go back to the overall view of all kinds of integrations, which is here. So we've now gone through like the different APIs that we then have now kind of introduced.
Sure. What we didn't now go through in detail are the integrations relating to the exporting data parts out of Falcony. So, for example, into business intelligence tools, task management, facility management, or insurance company systems.
Exactly. So, as some of you already know, these have been already existing for some time, so that's why we didn't go through them in so much detail. But if you are interested in any of these or only one, just to let us know.
And some of you might think that the integrations are far too big and tedious to even consider, but our suggestion is that simply contact us. Let's discuss your needs in more detail. It might actually be less work than you think, and the cost of you spending time updating these things manually can be far greater.
You hit it spot on. So yeah, thank you for having me, Karle, today here.
Thank you from my side as well. This concludes the second segment. We'll have a short break before our customer success specialist Marianne will join me on stage to discuss the highlights from last year.
Thank you.
Welcome to the stage, Marianne. You've been with us barely a couple months and already here. What a ride.
Thank you. It's really amazing, actually.
It sure is. Okay, let's dive right in and start with some numbers from 2022, shall we?
Absolutely.
So as you can see, we hit record numbers in both audits submitted and observations reported on the Falcony platform. To make it more specific, there were more than 500,000 audits conducted on the platform and close to 1.4 million observations reported.
So that's actually making a one audit per every minute and a observation per every 20 seconds.
True, pretty mind-boggling when you put it into perspective like that.
Okay, wow. So tell me, Carl, since I only started at Falcony, what were the major events you did last year?
Sure. First of all, even though it feels like a long time ago, it was only last March when we merged the previous Audits.io and Insi.io products into a single platform, Falcony, and left multiple other brand names into history.
Okay. I understood that was actually the same moment when Falcony brand got officially introduced too. Am I right?
That's right. Our Falcony brand is heading its 1 year mark right now.
Okay, looks super cool. But besides that, what happened platform-wise?
Well, a lot happened. Some bigger improvements and some smaller ones. We had another launch event in last September where we introduced the first version of our template library.
Okay, so that's the public site available in templates.falcony.io, where actually both our customers, or basically anybody, could search for a proven audit and observation templates and spark and find good new ideas.
Exactly. The main idea here is that we wanted that the best practices get shared not just within our customers' organizations, but actually between them.
Okay, super nice. But I also understood that there was a major overhaul in statistics. Am I right?
You are correct. Firstly, we improved the observation and audit tables, enabling easier data exports of individual observations and audits.
So basically, you could just add the relevant columns for you for each and one reports, right?
True. And on top of these, we introduced the Save Statistics feature, which improved all of the report types.
Okay, this is really good actually, as nobody really wants to reinvent the wheel every time they use the statistics.
Exactly. Now anyone can publish their saved statistics and allowing the rest of their organization to benefit from them as well.
Okay, sounds really good.
In the September launch, we also had a session about linked observations, which has actually proven to be a really successful feature among our customers.
Okay, so basically this new feature enables, let's say, multiple new use cases. You could, for example, make it as long as incident escalations or investigations.
And from subtasks to grouping incidents from same or different events together.
Okay, about some smaller improvements. For GDPR purposes, we have developed a feature that automatically deletes attachments and question answers on certain observations after a defined time period.
Yes, and this feature has been improved to also include the deletion of entire observations.
Okay, nice.
The next one is also something we've had already for a while, but worth a mention. So the malware scanner for attachments.
So this would automatically scan all the attachments added to Falcony?
Exactly.
Okay. That's really handy when thinking about the customers who have auditors adding, let's say, customers or suppliers attachments where they might not be able to trust them fully 100%.
Well, that's a great example.
So the next improvement has actually been requested a lot, especially by our tenant and facility portal customers.
And also by customers who are using Falcony in multiple workspaces simultaneously.
True. So now it's possible to make certain edits to the sender name and subject line of the email sent from Falcony, as you can see here.
Yes, with the sender name, it's possible to change the via Falcony text to something more meaningful, such as via your property name.
Okay, and with the subject line format, it's possible to, let's say, remove the numbering or add the organization name into the subject line itself.
And that helps a ton when you have a lot of emails coming from Falcony.
Definitely. Very nice.
Then a small improvement for customers who can't for some reason implement SSO integration but want to have stronger password policies.
So it's now possible to have any kind of password?
It is. Our customers can now select pretty much any amount of letters, numbers or special characters they want to require from their end users in their passwords.
Okay, nice. So this concludes the feature updates of 2022.
It does. It's also worth mentioning that we are continuously developing the platform to make it work even better and faster for you. And this, of course, is thanks to our magnificent product team.
Yeah, I think they truly deserve all the respect and appreciation.
Absolutely.
So Karle, anything you as a head of marketing would like to mention from last year in marketing perspective?
Well, now that you mentioned, but I'll make it super quick. Besides the active blog where we are publishing content multiple times per week, we've also recently published ebooks and guides. The 2 incident reporting ebooks on the left-hand side, and then the incomplete guide to tenant experience and involvement were some of the ones that we were able to publish last year.
Okay, and there's more to come, I suppose?
That's right, there's a lot more guides coming in the pipeline.
Sounds super interesting, but great. Thank you from my side, Karle.
And thank you from my side as well. This concludes the 3rd segment of the event. Let's have a short break before we welcome Andy and Arttu on stage to discuss the plans going forward. See you soon.
All right, welcome back again. Karle and Marianne had a look back, but now, Andy, it's about time to look ahead with the 2 of us.
Yeah, that's true.
Is there any bigger vision where we could start this? What are we doing and why?
That's a good question. So let's just simply say in one kind of easy way that what we're trying to solve is under-involvement.
Yeah, nice word, but it's basically just a way of defining that we want to reveal problems, observations, issues, and ideas that wouldn't otherwise be reported or corrected at all without us.
Exactly. So the more you involve people, the more often, the better information you get about what's actually going to happen. And ultimately this kind of then leads to the possibility to have like true situational awareness so that you actually know where to put your armor on your plane.
No, what's going on?
Exactly.
So, platform-wise, how do we put this into more concrete practice?
Yeah, so we basically have divided this in 4 different sections. So, involvement companion on the top, involvement management, involvement use cases, and involvement data platform.
Yeah, so this is kind of like the high level, what involvement platform is, before we actually go deeper into how do we want to improve each
Exactly.
of these.
So the involvement companion, which is at the top, is basically like the super simple way of reporting, and it's named involvement companion because everybody has a cell phone nowadays close to their person at almost all times.
Yeah, so involvement companion is what the platform actually looks like for the employees using it, end users.
Yeah.
All right, so besides the reporting and auditing you mentioned, it also covers task management, communication, and for example announcements, which is nowadays quite big actually with the tenant portal and facility portal.
Yeah,
customers
that's right.
Growing. Good stuff. Then the second layer, what you mentioned already, involvement management. That's more about the features and functionalities that help admins and managers to increase involvement. So what they can do with the admin side and increase the output with less input, for example.
Yeah, definitely. So this also includes statistics, open links so that we can involve external users to report, the template editors and assignee automations.
Yeah, and of course now the recently launched audit scheduling as well.
Exactly.
What about the third layer, the orange one here, involvement use cases? Why is it, by the way, below involvement management?
Well, that's because typically our customers start using our software for only one use case first. So a safety manager will start to use it for safety related stuff, and a facility manager for facility related stuff. But yeah, that's why it's there.
Yeah, so kind of like what you're saying is that involvement platform supports each of the use cases individually.
Exactly. But then, of course, if we go back to the involvement companion, it makes the most sense when you can use the platform for multiple different use cases.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like the other way of saying it is that from the employee's point of view, using the involvement companion, they might not define where does each observation belong to.
Exactly. So, for example, if a window breaks, it's a security issue, it's a maintenance issue, and a cleaning issue all at the same time.
Yeah, so multiple functions.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, then there's also the data platform beneath at the very bottom, which is basically all the APIs and integrations we talked about with Karle already.
Yeah, and also what Karle and Marianne mentioned, the template libraries there to share the common best practices between customers.
Exactly. So let's then dive deeper with these building blocks in mind, and we'll start at the top with the involvement companion, and we'll look at different types of bigger feature sets or functions that we've thought of around these topics.
Sounds good. So, involvement companion, like discussed, this is essentially a single tool for the employees or the end users to report, audit, and track everything.
Exactly. So basically make sure that things get better when you open your mouth.
Yeah. A good analogy is a remote control for tracking whenever you open your mouth and say something.
Yeah.
To make sure something gets done about it.
Exactly.
Okay. What do we have planned for this?
Well, not planned per se, but as mentioned, we're considering a lot of different types of bigger areas. So the things we're going to go through are not yet in order necessarily, but
so let's say these are prioritized, but we're going to cherry pick what gets developed next. That's a good point.
All right, so the first one we have here is basically a new email layout that simplifies the current email design a lot. So as Marianne and Karle mentioned, you can already tailor the actual headline of it, and this is just to kind of simplify and tailor the actual layout of it.
So the design, so the relevant information is more easily accessible.
Exactly.
And this will definitely help with the communication.
That's true.
All right, next one. This one fascinates me a lot, by the way.
This is a good one, yes. And so it's called external links. And what this basically means is that when you usually use the different types of buttons to open a form within Falcony, we could then have underneath the button an external link. So any link to another system or software.
And the reason, just to clarify why this fascinates me so much, is because even though Falcony is very versatile, you can use it for many different use cases, there's still a lot more reporting systems and processes that we are not at the moment supporting. And at someday, we want to keep the promise for the end users that they can use just a single tool to report and share everything they notice.
Yeah, that's true. And also on top of this, not every organization, even if these could be done through integrations, have the resources, either time or money or whatever, to actually have those integrations
and
done.
Integrations are always also dependent on the other side.
Exactly.
So just a couple good examples how and in which use cases this could work. So some of our customers already use Falcony for IT incidents, IT security, but they also might have a separate system for it. The same applies for facility-related service requests, or then again, for example, HR-related reports, like absence requests. All of these could work through an external link in the reporting page in Falcony. And I bet there's a lot more of these types of reports that we can't even imagine at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure. which actually brings me to the next topic, which is multiple workspace use. And what I mean by this is multiple Falcony organizations used by the same customer.
Sounds good. This is quite a big topic, by the way.
Yeah, because even now it kind of makes sense to in some cases that there are multiple different Falcony organizations for different things. So what this kind of would enable is for the end user to only have one kind of look and feel.
Yeah, one UI.
Report.
They don't even need to consider where they
Exactly.
are in the platform. And this has become quite a big nowadays also because whistleblowing,
Yep.
tenant portals, we pretty much always create them in a separate workspace.
That's
for
true.
the simplicity reasons. And we can see that the multiple workspace use is growing in Falcony.
Definitely, and of course, if you have multiple different locations to report different things in, that's of course a barrier which we want to take out.
Exactly. All right, next point there.
All right, so next I've got PDF reports.
All right, PDFs. Is this still something we want to improve?
Well, we strongly do encourage people to use web reports for especially internal use.
When people have credentials in the
Exactly,
system.
they're up to date all the time. You don't have to send them and they're not lost in emails and so on. But PDF reports still do have a place
They do.
as a shareable document.
Yeah, shareable and non-editable document.
Exactly.
And I'd even add to that one of the reasons why PDF reports are so important is because some of the customers of ours, especially the ones who do audits for their own clients, the PDF report represent an end product, which is why it has to look good. It has to be tailored to their needs. And just the ones that we're now most likely at some point adding, they are on top of what we already have
Exactly.
as customization possibilities.
So there is possibilities to customize the PDF report at the moment, but we want to make it even more customizable and have it easy for the admins to do that customization themselves within the software.
Yes, exactly. Okay, the next layer in the pyramid of involvement platforms is involvement management. What do we have envisioned for this?
Well, a few things. So first thing first, as mentioned, more ways of data collection allows for more involvement. So for this, we've actually thought of within the audit side of things to have more and different types of question types. That means instead of either having free text or then buttons, yes, no,
what
maybe,
we have already, and the signature question.
and the signature. We could have numeric fields, dates, date, time separately, multi-select type question types as just some of the examples.
Yeah, these probably enable, again, like all types of checklists that we haven't even seen before.
Exactly.
This is great.
And related to that, one other topic is mandatory observations within audits.
This is, again, a very much requested feature in Falcony. And I guess one of the questions that raises up from this is that would the mandatory observation feature ask the mandatory observation based on, for example, the answer choice?
Exactly. So depending on what you audit, what the checklist is, it doesn't make sense to have the same rules for all of the checklists. So in some examples, you might want to have a mandatory follow-up action or non-conformity elaborament based on if you answer red.
Yeah, only the worst.
On the worst. Or then you might want to have evidence of the good things as well. So it doesn't matter on what you answer, you still have to add some type of evidence.
Yeah, I've seen both of these in action,
Exactly.
so it would help a lot. Good stuff. Moving on to the next one, which is also quite big.
Yeah, sure. And would you, Arttu, want to introduce this one?
Oh, okay, I guess it's my turn. So now that we have launched the scheduled audits, recurring audits, a logical next step could be to introduce scheduled tasks as well. So all kinds of scheduled observations. It can be task, it can be a report, it can be an order or a request, for example. Anything that works through observation forms within Falcony.
And why does this make sense?
For multiple reasons. First of all, an audit template may be an overkill, too big for certain kind of tasks. So for example, maintenance workers doing pretty much anything, snow removal, any kind of like recurring task. They visit the site, check the electricity meters. It's probably an overkill to have too long checklist for it. So in that sense, it could be simply recurring task, which they tap through.
Sounds good.
And secondly, in some cases, we already have recurring observations reported, for example, on a monthly basis. A good example is in shopping center tenant portals, where each and every tenant, especially the commercial tenant, need to report their sales on a monthly basis. So this would help a lot.
Yeah, and I guess this also benefits of the same thing as the scheduled audits of having recurring reminders.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Reminders for the tenants in the shopping center use case, but also for the visibility, like knowing what's coming, how much work do you have to do, and so on. And there's also a third point for these recurring tasks. We see a lot of potential for new types of observations, so to say. So let's go through a couple of examples. For example, in retail stores, it could be used for seasonal campaigns and, for example, assortment tasks. And then again, like, let's say, hospitality in restaurants and hotels, like the operational tasks they do every day.
Yeah. And the maintenance task you mentioned before.
Yeah, true.
All right, and then finally, the last improvement in this layer of the pyramid, the involvement management, could be the visualization of the statistics.
Yeah, there's 3 of them, actually all of them quite big changes, but let's mention each of them anyway. So the first one, grouped bar chart, is about improving the already existing bar chart in statistics. And what does the grouped bar chart mean is that instead of, for example, the different variations stacking on top of each other, it shows the 2 bar charts next to each other. So 2 bars always next to each other.
This would help to compare, for example, different years.
Yeah, definitely,
with each
which
other.
is really difficult with the stacked
Exactly.
chart. And the second one is line graph, which would help quite a bit, especially with showing the audit scores in a more visual format.
Very good. And the final one is drill downs, which would help to get deeper information about what actually happened. And there's loads of possibilities with the drill downs, but just as an example, you could have the audit scores, then drill down to section scores, and then question-specific answers.
Yeah, we can probably even imagine all the ways to drill down, but
Exactly.
anyway, summarizing, there's a lot to improve still with the statistics.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, the third layer in the pyramid, involvement use cases. What do we have for this?
Yeah, so this kind of talks about what kind of functions, departments, and use cases it's possible to kind of add on to the platform and use it for.
Yeah, and some of these, let's say, for example, whistleblowing and tenant portal, they're so common use cases that we've productized them into their own product lines within the platform. But then the other ones, maybe not all of them, but some of the other ones we've included in other products.
Yeah, and kind of like spearhead products.
Yeah,
if you
whistleblowing, tenant portal, they
Yeah.
like represent a spearhead product.
Yeah. So are you saying that we could actually then productize some of the other things as like whole new product lines, if you like?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons for this. They might be actually at the moment included already in some other one, but to make sure they get the relevant level of visibility also. Plus, we don't want to keep everything in stealth mode. We want our customers to understand that they can use the platform in more versatile ways. So, starting with
go ahead.
risk management. This is a big topic.
It is.
Some of the customers look at it from their own function perspective. They already do like security risk management or safety risk assessments. But then there's more high level, strategic, operational, some people call it ERM, enterprise risk management.
So definitely, so what we could do is provide a kind of unified risk register which is highly customizable, and then also like ready-made risk templates, risk categories, risk matrices, and even ways of tracking opportunities within the system.
Yeah, exactly. So how it could work is that for different types of risk assessments, let's say safety risk assessments could use 3x3 matrix. Then there might be 5x5 for some other one. And even opportunities could have their own matrix.
Yeah, or even multi-dimensional matrices.
Yeah, multiple levels of impact.
Exactly.
So what we're saying is that it's customizable for all these use cases.
Yeah. Plus it would make sense because it's you can use it with the same credentials and same integrations that are already in place.
Yeah, and the same philosophy what we promote with involvement anyway. So you can link the action tracking, mobile communication, and real-time statistics. Anyway, the same stuff applies, I guess, to the next one as well. So
yeah, definitely. So sustainability reporting,
or ESG, which is the familiar acronym nowadays.
Exactly. So of course, this depends a lot on what industry you're in, like what do you actually report, and some of our clients already use some of the
yeah, exactly. So I know, for example, many facility portals, tenant portals collect electricity numbers on a yearly basis.
Exactly. But we could basically, if we productize this, then kind of make a package with relevant reporting templates and statistics right from the start.
Yeah, and then again, it would follow the same logic that based on user rights, roles, only the relevant people would be allowed to report the specific categories.
Makes sense. All right, other than these two, the following three could also be productized into their own product lines.
Yeah, so what we have here is supplier involvement, vehicle management, and idea reporting. And I'd say especially supplier involvement and idea reporting are very, very common use cases within Falcony platform already. The thing is, they are typically included some other parts of the platform. So we haven't named the products per se by their names.
Yeah, so basically by productizing these, we could help promote these use cases and kind of spread the involvement.
Yeah, there's like two sides. For existing customers who might not already know that they can use it for this, but then there's also, for example, with supplier involvement, there are dedicated decision makers typically for this.
True.
Supplier manager who is responsible for this, and then we could make sure they also are aware of Falcony platform's benefits.
That's a very good point.
All right, let's move on to the final and bottom layer of the involvement platform pyramid, called involvement data platform.
Yeah, so basically this is all about the integrations, the APIs and tools that help keep the data structured, relevant, and connected with other relevant systems.
Yeah, so what this often means is that Falcony gets linked to the already existing IT infrastructure of the customers.
Yeah, so basically also these integrations, if we've done an integration in kind of one use case, they also then serve easily the other use cases. They don't necessarily have to be done separately.
Yeah, exactly, which makes it pretty much easy for the customers to expand to next use cases.
Exactly.
So that's why data platform is below the use cases.
That's true.
Okay, what do we have considered for the future?
Yeah, so one of the first things I want to mention is better visibility on deleted audits and observations.
I bet this is one of those features that would allow admins to investigate much faster if something has been removed by accident or on purpose.
Exactly. And oftentimes, at the moment, these customers come or contact our support, and then it needs to be manually dug out from them, which is of course fairly simple, but it takes some manual doing.
Yeah.
So this would definitely speed up the process on both ends.
Yeah, both support and on the customer side.
Exactly.
Sounds really good. Anything else on the data platform?
Yeah, so another topic we've considered is dashboard templates for Power BI, Qlik, Tableau, or any similar business intelligence tool.
This is interesting. Why is this, by the way, beneficial?
So a lot of companies already have access to a business intelligence tool. Even some of them might not even know it, but like from Microsoft 365, it's part of the package. So then they kind of have access to it, but then they might not have the resources to actually build the dashboards and build their metrics.
Capabilities, time.
Yeah, it might be that if they have internal resources, they're doing something else and strained, or then they have to use an external consultant, and they're quite expensive.
Yeah. All in all, I guess the other side of this is that if you use a BI tool like Power BI or Qlik, it's typically a stepping stone to not just used for Falcony data, but you can also cross-link it with other data points from other data sources.
That is true.
And when you can do that, it typically gets Falcony data also closer to management reporting and management dashboards also, which should also help our customers to communicate with their management better.
Yeah, it makes the data like put into perspective as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's going to be really exciting. But yeah, so that kind of concludes all the different major topics, don't you think, Arttu?
Yeah, just probably worth mentioning that we can do everything. So we're going to prioritize, and I guess we can conclude a bit now.
Yeah, so as Arttu, you just mentioned, we're going to still keep our roadmap fluid, and that means you actually have a chance to influence on what we're going to do next. So please let us know. Let basically anybody with a Falcony email know we have a structure of gathering the data on your ideas, and that will help us weight the different features that we're going to work on.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about your voice and giving your feedback, it's good to remind also that Falcony platform is just in the core of the value we provide for our customers. Around the platform is the world-class support you mentioned, onboarding, all these other services that we provide, but also these webinars and events and so on. All of these are about making sure you as a customer can involve your extended workplace to know what's really going on in your chosen responsibility areas.
Very well put. Thank you everybody from my point of view. Thank you, Arttu.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you from my side. This concludes the final session and also the launch event today. The chat will stay open for a while, so if you still have any questions, we're going to be there to discuss with you. And I guess from all four of us and anybody else who's been here, we want to thank all the participants, and let's definitely stay in touch and have a great spring. Thank you.